Hello and welcome to Piwik PRO YouTube video series. Topic of the video: turn customer insights into Slack alerts with Piwik PRO CDP. So what we're gonna learn? First, we're gonna explore briefly some ideas for how this setup could be used in different types of businesses. And then we're gonna go through the step-by-step instructions for how to set things up in CDP and Slack. So what we're gonna be setting up in a nutshell. We're going to create an audience, i.e. define the conditions for when the user joins the audience, and we could be using behavioral data, which comes out of the box with Piwik PRO CDP, as well as data from other systems, other platforms, if we already sync such data with CDP. Then, upon met conditions, a custom message will be sent to Slack channel notifying us that the user joined the audience, i.e. met the conditions of the audience. The custom message in the Slack channel we're going to send a message to will largely depend on the use case. So for example, we could be sending promising leads to a sales team based on, say, the fact that the user completed the form to download gated content. We could be sending alerts to customer success team, letting them know that the client interacts with the new feature in our SaaS product, or perhaps that they have not logged in for a while. We could also notify support team that the new client needs help, and that could be based on the number of visits to a certain help center articles or some frequently asked question pages. Or we could be alerting account managers that the current client could potentially churn because, say, the client visited cancellation or account downgrade pages. And there could be many other examples, but let's focus on the step-by-step instructions part of this video. Okay, first let's explain the use case at hand. So let's say we're a bank, this is a banking demo website, and we want to have an alert messages to be sent to particular Slack channel whenever one of our clients is viewing certain content category, indicating that the interest in that type of product category, in our case that could be finance or insurance. Whenever I go to blog post, we can see the category here. So if the user, say, goes to given content category at least, say, 3 times or more or less, that is when we want to send a message. Moreover, we want that interest to be recent and not some old news. So we want those 3 examples of content views to have happened in, say, last 24 hours or last few days and not across, say, half a year, to make sure that the interest is still there. It's still fresh and recent. Another thing which might be useful to know later on during the setup is that on this particular website, before we jump onto, say, CDP, on this particular website, we track blog post categories as event scope custom dimensions and session scope custom dimension as both. This will be useful to know later once we get to audience creation and activations. So first step in terms of setup would be to create an audience. I already done that, but let me just go through the conditions so we know what we're looking for. So first condition that I have here is last user ID is not empty. It means that we're looking at users who went to our website, but of which user ID we know, i.e. email we know, so that whenever the message to the Slack channel will be sent, we'll be able to send an email and get in touch with those clients. In here, we have conditions for when blog post category is finances or insurances or stock markets. And whenever a user goes to this type of blog post category at least 3 times in, say, 24 hours, those numbers obviously could be increased, or the recency could be also changed into minutes, hours, or days, whatever. So we can change that. Whenever user does that, they basically join the audience, and eventually the Slack message will be sent to them. So that's the first step. Let's save it. Step 2 would be to create an activation. So I'm going to hit add an activation, and in here we could follow 2 sort of ways. We can take advantage of the template or use custom activation. So let's start with the custom activation. The difference between the template and custom activation is that in here, in the custom activation, we need to create the message from scratch. In the Slack template, you have some example message, perhaps not relevant to your use case, but at least you have something to work with. You can change the text, you can change all different settings. We'll get to that in appropriate time. So we'll come back to that. But first, let's give our activation a name. So Slack message activation, and we're going to run a webhook when the user joins the audience that we've just created, content interest Slack message audience. So the one that we've just been looking at. In here, we're missing a webhook. So that's going to be our next step. But before we do that, just want to step by here for a second. Here we have this setting, activate user once or multiple times. What does it mean? It means that if I were to switch to multiple times, and this is what I really want to do right now, is that whenever a user meets the criteria of the audience, this audience that we selected, we're going to activate them multiple times. So if one day user is interested in insurance blog post category, we're going to send a message. The next day they are interested in some finance blog post category, or again in insurance, we're going to send that message again if they meet the criteria of the audience. So this can happen multiple times. If we were to switch to once the user joins the audience, then we're not going to activate them anymore, even though they meet the criteria of the audience once again. So that's why I want to switch to multiple times. I also going to choose activate users who have multiple user IDs, meaning if they identify themselves on our website using multiple different emails. I want to do that because on my demo website, I've been using several emails. So that's why I want to do that. I'm going to leave the consents as they are. And now let's get to the next part. So I can't save my activation, but let's get to this link. So here I'm under api/slack.com messaging webhooks. This is where you can create a Slack app. First of all, I'm going to attach the link below the video. So don't worry if you don't have to type that in. The links will be below the video. Also, when I'm saying Slack app, don't worry, it's not complicated. It's a very simple and very straightforward process. And I'm going to show you how to do that. So let's hit on create your Slack app. By the way, I'm already logged into my Slack demo sort of account. And in here, I'm going to use from the manifest, select the workspace. I'm going to use Piwik PRO demo. I'm going to hit next. I'm going to hit next. I'm going to leave it as it is. I'm going to create an app. And there's some information here. I'm going to leave it blank. Perhaps I could change the name to CDP demo. That's the name of my app. Here I could provide a description. And let's change, let's say, color to bluish. And now let's save changes. My app has been created. Now on the left-hand side in here, we have incoming webhook. So we need to click on that and we need to enable them and we need to add a new webhook to a workspace. And now I can choose the channels. So if you take a look at the channels that I have here, I have new channel, social, etc. If I were to choose one, I can choose, say, new channel, and let's say allow. So we've allowed the channel to receive the messages. And in here, we've created a hook. So we need to copy that and then go back to our activation and paste the code of the webhook. And that's pretty much it. Next step will be to edit this message so it suits our use case. To do that, I'm going to use a Slack kit. So I went back to this very URL. So the one where we click on this button and we created the app. So we're back on this URL. And in here, if we were to scroll down on the left-hand side, in here we have a block kit. So we can take advantage of this block kit to create Slack message. In here, the very useful part about this block kit builder is that on the left-hand side, we can add different elements, and those could be emojis, images, etc., etc. I don't want to get too deep on that. This is the message that we're going to see, and this is the code. So I don't want to use that. I want to replace this code with my code. And in here, we can see the message that is available with the template. Now, what we need to know about this message is that in here, in those curly brackets, those will be the values that will be pulled from CDP. Now, I'm going to keep some of them. Some of them I'm going to change. So I want to change the test message from test message to, let's say, CDP message. And I also, in here, I want to change the emoji to, let's say, smile. So it's smile. In here, customer ID. I don't want to use first one. I'm going to use the last one. So I'm going to change it, but that could be also changed within CDP. I'm going to change it here. And then that part where we have what have I done, I want to change that to recent content interest. And under I spent, I'm just going to change it to XXX because I want to keep it as a placeholder, because I want to explain you how to add these variables, those curly bracket messages that are being pulled, that pulls data from CDP. So I'm going to leave it as it is. I'm happy with the message and how it looks. And now I'm going to paste it in here. So that's the message pasted, but I want to go back to this placeholder. So I'm going to delete that. Let me zoom in a little. And in here, I want to add the message. So down here, I want to find the content interest attribute. In here, I have this content interest CDP list all attribute, and I want the most recent value. Now, what is this attribute? This is basically a session custom dimension that in analytics, it is called session custom dimension, but those are automatically transformed into, basically it's the same data, but in the CDP, it is being called an attribute. I can't use event dimensions to use them in the code here. I can only use attributes. So that's why earlier on I was saying, when I was explaining the use case, that I need event scope custom dimensions to create the audience. We already did that. And this is the second one, session scope custom dimension, which will become the attribute, so I can use it in here. And now notice when I click the last, we now have in this message the curly bracket message custom attribute 51, and the most recent one, which is the last. Now let's hit save and let's go back to our audience. So we have 0 profiles. Now let's go to the website and let's meet the condition of that very audience. So we need to go 3 times to either finance, blog post category, insurance, stock market, and we need to have user ID. Because I'm logged in, the user ID is being captured. Even if I weren't, as long as in previous session I was logged in and the email is known, that would be still fine. But let's go and meet those criteria. So finance, let's do that. So that's 1 page view on a finance blog post category. Let's go to loans and go back to finance. So that's 2. We need 1 more. So let's scroll down a little and find another. And that's the blog post category finance. So that's 3 times. Let's go back to the audience. Let's refresh the data. We can see that the profile won. So now let's go to the activation. We can see that the activation went through, and we can see my profile. We can check the attributes. So the most recent one was finance. That's the content interest CDP list finances. And now let's go back to Slack and see whether the message was actually sent. So in the new channel, we can see that the recent content interest, the finances, it was sent. So we can see that in here, not only we can see the message that, so the app was created, and the second message is that one that we designed in the activation. And that's basically how you integrate CDP with Slack channels. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please consider liking it and subscribing to our channel. Check the description below to find some useful links like free Piwik PRO sign up page, community forum page, and links to related videos. Until next time.